And it's now time for a new segment called Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. Make sure you place your bets in person at Warhorse Sportsbook in Lincoln or Omaha. It is the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. Let's keep that money on the right side of the river. Although you're looking at the map, it's technically on the left side of the river. But you know what I mean. The correct side of the river at Warhorse Sportsbook. No bets, no glory. And here's what I'm betting on, DB, is that long-term, the culture at Nebraska is going to beat out the culture at Colorado. I'm betting on that with everything I've got. I don't know what's going to happen on September 7th, although, as we talked with Sam, I could really use a W there.
It's a lot of pressure.
It is.
We talked about it real time. It's like, hey.
You've got to be able to rise to those situations, though, right? But
especially now that the national narrative is being written.
Yes, because it comes
across as dysfunctional and combative.
Yes.
Can that win?
And my long-term, my answer is no, right? Maybe that's me personally. I don't function well in toxically chaotic situations. Mm-hmm. I can keep my head above water when there's a lot going on.
Unfortunately, I've learned to thrive in those environments.
And I can function pretty well when there's a lot happening. But if people are being toxic while it's happening, I'm probably good. I'm just going to be done there, right? I'm not.
What do you like to say?
Yeah, deuces. I'm out. I'm good there, right?
In a similar vein, I'm betting on the fact that culture wins, right? Because I think ultimately it does.
Yeah.
And we'll have plenty of opportunities to put that to the test in multiple arenas, whether it's in your home, in the business setting. I mean, can you imagine how many people have been running businesses where they may have to take some outward concessions because it doesn't fit the culture?
100%.
Hey, this is not, I know they're doing this over, but boss, man, look at the revenue and they're doing this. And hey, won't win out in the long run.
It's really hard to say no to winning right now for what you think wins long term.
Yeah.
We saw this. I mean,
if they're different.
Yes. If they're not always.
Yeah.
They're not always. A lot of times they are. But we saw it with Coach Frost. He knew better. Right? I think that's fair. I don't know if he knew better in the moment.
He learned. I think he knew where he was going wrong real time.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I think he knew better.
As
he was sacrificing some things he cared about to do what he thought he needed to win right now.
Yep.
Which it will go down as one of the greatest ironies of all time. The guy that had the longest runway built in, maybe in recent college football history because of who he was to this state, felt the pressure to win right away. It's one of the great ironies of sports is that dude was going to get his time.
Mm-hmm.
And he got his time, right? He did. Probably more than he should have. At least that last little half.
I can't even really remember.
What do you mean?
The last year where people were surprised?
Oh, I just mean when he got fired midway with the Mickey Joseph. He probably should have been let go the season before, after the season before that.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Do you have to recruit to the culture, or does the culture evolve with new bodies?
Ooh, I think you have to recruit to the culture. Culture, I think, has to be the standard. And then you have to go, guys.
Because it doesn't have to change to the negative.
No, it doesn't. But I also don't think, I think it evolves a little bit, but there's going to be core things that matter are always your core things, right? Being competitive. That's a standard of Nebraska's culture. If you're not competitive, you're not going to last very long in Lincoln. Authenticity, I think, is a standard of their culture. If you're not authentic, you're not going to last very long in Lincoln. Yeah. And accountability. If you're not accountable to yourself and to others, if you don't uphold the standard and help everybody else around you,
we've seen it cost a couple of guys jobs, right?
Uphold the standard, you're not going to last very long in Lincoln. Those things aren't going to change. What it looks like will adapt as you get different players. And, one guy probably, it's just different leadership styles, right? One guy's going to hold people accountable differently than another guy does. I hold people accountable differently than you probably do. Mm-hmm. That's okay. It's still the same standard. It just looks a little different. So the manifestation of the culture is going to look different as you recruit different guys, and that's fine. It's going to change a little bit as you bring in different coaches. It's going to look different under John Butler than it did under Evan Cooper, right? The quarterback
that's actually a really good example.
The quarterback room is going to look different under Glenn Thomas than it did under Marcus Satterfield. That doesn't mean Satterfield.
But the core
but the core principles are the same.
It gets a little personality tweak.
Yeah, 100%. And that's okay. I think it has to, right? You have to be adaptable, but you also have to be convicted. And that those sound like they're opposite, but they're really not. You have to be willing to change the things that are okay to change and be unwavering in the things that you believe can't be. But in order to do that, you have to know the difference.
That's why I go back to just the mindset in the quarterback room.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I think that's important? Or I go back to something Coach Raiola said on Husker Sports Nightly about a month ago, where he was talking about the standard and their growth. And he said, that's why at the end of the day, I can keep feelings out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about feelings, because the standard and the culture is what it is. You're either you're meeting it or you're not. And why did I gravitate towards that? Because he made it sound so easy.
Well, so there's a key there though, right? He keeps feelings out of it when it's football time. But why is he able to do that? Because everybody knows you care about each other before that.
Yeah.
You can only keep feelings out of it if that's already established. Because you're human beings. You're never removing feelings from an equation, but you know how you limit their impact on the situation? Everybody knows that you care and love them before you get to the place. And then you can teach however you need to teach, right? But that's why Ryle was able to do that. It's because everybody in that, you say all the time, that offensive line room is the closest knit group on the team.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that, because, there were these times, again, just full disclosure, it looks great on the outside, but I'll tell you the conviction inside. I mean, we're like 6-7 games in, and I'm thinking in my head, how many scholarship offers am I costing Teddy Rizak?
Yeah. By moving him out of position.
Yeah.
Out of where his position will be.
Yeah.
Right? But
that's why I'm vibing with what you're saying.
The fact that you care matters.
And the fact that he knew I cared.
Yes.
Mattered.
Yes. Because if he doesn't think, if he's just like, oh man, DB's just trying to get a state title, he's just trying to win at Westside, he doesn't care what this looks like for me long term. That was probably.
It has to be supported by my staff.
Yeah.
And it has to be supported by what's going on in his house.
By Teddy's parents. Yeah, I was just going to say that, right?
Yeah.
Like, if they're not on board for that,
oh yeah,
how does that go? You know?
Yeah.
You want to know something you can bet on? You can bet on that not going well.
Good point.
Like that, if they're not on the same page and they're not vibing with you, and they know that you care, that gets relayed to the fact that
it probably comes across differently, right?
100%.
So that's interesting, because with position, so I'm looking at guys that they're looking for out of the portal. And I go back to a guy that everybody saw in Chasing 3, and they let the media in early, and so people were talking about who was working with the first unit and whose name came up at guard.
At guard.
At one point, we were saying, "Gosh, we're having these conversations about the offensive line, and we're not even bringing
Mazuka."
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, to the question about standards and culture and being adaptable, it was clear early on with what they were saying, and
that he hadn't quite got it yet.
Right.
He wasn't quite there yet. Physically, he's always been there.
Right. Yeah. He started in the SEC in 2 Power 5 conferences, right?
Physically, he was there. He was fine.
So maybe that's kind of our answer as we're sorting through it, because they weren't ready to relent just because.
Yeah, because he was good. Well, it's really hard to
I gotta go.
Get a vibe on how
that one's interesting.
Guys will fit into culture. But if you see guys leave this program, it's going to be for one of two reasons. They understand that they probably aren't good enough to crack through the depth chart, and they want to go play somewhere else, and it's nothing personal on either side, like a Chief Borders. That's how it seemed there. Or you're going to see guys that aren't culture fits, and Nebraska's not wavering, so they want to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right? Those are the two reasons you're going to see guys leave Nebraska, and I doubt you'll see much of anything else. That's why a guy like Sierra Wright's super interesting. Because on the outside looking in, you'd look at that guy, he's like, is he an actor? Does he want to play? Like, what's going on here? And you'd be like, what's he doing here? That's a guy that, like, if he sticks around, you're like,
that was kind of a process, too. That wasn't as slam dunky as we maybe made.
No, but I also think they were doing their due diligence.
Because remember how quiet it was after his visit? We weren't even sure if he got there or not.
Yeah. But I think it's because they were trying to figure out, okay, does this guy fit?
Yeah.
And he was probably trying to figure out, do I fit there? That's Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. No bets, no glory, the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets.